And hello and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and so glad as always that you could be here and join me for another terrific show. I hope you enjoy it. Well, we're going to highlight a wonderful gentleman by the name of Joel Stedman, a producer, director, and actor, which is part of Morningside Productions based in Guilford, Connecticut, and he is my guest today. And Joel, so nice to have you. Thank you for coming to the station.
Well, it's so nice to be here.
Why don't we do what I always do, which is introduce the viewer to my guest. Why don't you take us back? Tell us about yourself.
Oh my goodness, from what time to what time?
Well, you can start from almost the very beginning or wherever you started in the professional part of your life.
My mom and dad took me to New York City to get our foreign exchange student from England. We drove there, and while we were waiting for her boat to arrive, they took me to see Gypsy with Ethel Merman. And after I saw Gypsy with Ethel Merman, I went, oh my God, you can make money and you can make a living doing this? And they said yes, and I said that's for me. And I went back to high school and got involved in the theater arts program. And then, to make a long story short, went to Goodman Theater in Chicago, the Art Institute of Chicago. And right out of that, when I graduated from there, I went to the Alley Theater in Houston, Texas as a, not a journeyman, as an apprentice for $75 a week, and did 6 shows down there, and then they hired me back as a journeyman, and I did 6 shows, and then sort of screaming forward, my last show was up at Goodspeed Opera in East Haddam, and that's when I decided that I would get behind the camera, but to do the show I had to go down into New York City for a costume fitting. And I was down there and I heard this distinct voice of Ethel Merman, and she was in the adjoining sort of area getting her costume fit for something, I don't know what. But I was so excited to know that she was right there, I just sort of took the curtain and went bam like that, and I said, Miss Merman, let me tell you my story. You are the reason that I got involved in theater so many years ago. So we had a delightful conversation, and she came to see opening night up at Goodspeed. It was really wonderful. Then I got involved in behind the camera and I started Morningside Productions.
Did you know, and we talked about this before we started taping, did you know as a young person, you mentioned 16, but did you have any thoughts before that you might pursue an acting career?
I didn't know theater existed. I was from a small town in Minnesota, had no idea. Had no idea that theater existed. Had never seen any advertisement for a play or been to a play.
What happened at 16?
That's when I saw Ethel Merman and Gypsy.
And then went to your theater department in high school.
Right.
Did you think that you would pursue it? You mentioned until you were 34, 35 that you were pursuing it. Did you think it would be a lifelong endeavor?
Certainly being involved in the arts, theater arts, was a lifelong endeavor. But I sort of promised myself that if I had not sort of made it by the time I was 35, that I would do something else. And I pretty much had made it. I had been on Broadway. I had done 3 feature films. I had done a half a dozen different sitcoms. And I was doing really, really well. But then I started to notice that the people who were doing really well for a long period of time were not getting rehired. People were tired of their face, they were tired of their personalities or whatever, and I went, gosh, I don't know if I want to be involved in that, because that would be heartbreaking. So that's why I decided I would get behind the camera and do my work there.
How was it to be on Broadway?
It was great. It was really wonderful. I had an apartment on 53rd and 2nd, and so every night after the show, after we went to the restaurant, the pubs to sing and dance and eat dinner, I would walk back to my apartment at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, just exhilarated. It was really wonderful.
What were the shows that you were in? Do you remember?
Watch on the Rhine by Lillian Hellman, and that was the only Broadway show I did.
Okay. How is your love theater? You're mentioning film and other things. Is your love theater?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about turning your sights to behind the camera. How has it been? What is Morningside Productions all about?
Getting myself behind the camera. I always knew I liked directing, and I loved helping people in shows that I was involved with, helping people, sort of directing scenes and stuff, like saying, you know, if you would try this or you try that, you'll find that you really love that particular scene that you hate right now. And that's sort of what has happened is as a director, I just love working with actors. I love helping them find the key to their specific role. And when they get stuck, I throw them something that might get them unstuck. And it's so rewarding to see them take the idea and go with it. And it's just so rewarding to see them blossom. I feel like I'm a little gardener, planting the seed, covering it up with dirt, and all of a sudden they go like that. And you go, oh my God, isn't that great?
Tell the viewer what your thoughts would be about pursuing an acting career and thinking about making a change and going behind the camera. Do you need education? Is it just kind of an inward thought that you need to make a change? How did you do it and become successful?
Well, I had actually left theater completely and started as a creative with advertising agencies. Benton Bowles, Rosenfeld, Serwitz, and Lawson. I was on Crest toothpaste. So I learned a lot about marketing and a lot about commercials and things like that. So I had sort of this training of what to do when you got behind the camera. And then when I got behind the camera, I continued to do a lot of research about how you actually produce a film. And I tried desperately to, there's this wonderful book, there's this wonderful story about the old Lyme Museum, gosh, I can't think of it right now. Anyway, I wanted Katharine Hepburn to star in it, and she was living down in Old Saybrook, and I was in Essex. So I went down the Florence Griswold Museum.
That's right.
I went down to talk with Katharine, and from friends of friends. So I got an introduction to go down and actually sit in her wonderful kitchen and talk with her. And I said, I've got this great script. It's all about the Florence Griswold Museum, and I want you to play Florence Griswold. And she went, I'll never play Florence Griswold. My God, what are you thinking? And I went, oh, okay, bye. And so my whole first attempt, which was, predicated on sending treatments to Hallmark and, those types of places, which would have been ideal for that particular story. Then I went to another friend of mine's friend, Julie Harris, and that didn't work out either. So I pretty much shelved that idea. And I started to get involved in doing corporate video. And that was very lucrative, very successful, and very cumulative. The more you worked for different people, the more they saw you, the more they trusted you, and they would hire you. So I worked for almost every pharmaceutical company you can say. Excuse me. And it was, I worked for a company called the Bureau of Business Practice in Waterford. They were a division of Simon & Schuster. And I did a lot of supervisory training programs. And the wonderful thing about it is that when I was in New York City and I was on As the World Turns and Young and the Restless and stuff like that, I worked with a lot of really fine actors, and so I hardly even had to audition anybody. I just called them up and said, you know, I've got a part for you in this corporate video, would you come up and do it? And they, yeah, absolutely. And so for quite a long time, I just called my friends. And then I would go into New York City for 2 or 3 days, and I would audition people and put them on camera, and I would probably audition at least 200 people in 3 days. And then I would mark them as 1, 2, or 3. 3, use them without any hesitation. 2, re-audition them. 1, discard them. And so I was sort of like Mission Impossible, if you remember that series years ago, where they would put a team together and they would throw down the pictures and say, that's the team. And that's exactly what I would do. I had to make sure that I had diversity, but I had, you know, just the right combination of people that would work with one another. And so, boy, that's how I cast and worked with corporate video for 20 years.
You mentioned teaching before. Tell us about that.
I taught at Quinnipiac University, an acting class, and I also taught privately for several years, and it's great. It's even better than, well, it's almost the same, but it's better because it's sort of young talent planting the seed in the ground and watching it flower through, you know, improvisation, through scene study, through working on audition pieces and stuff like that. I always enjoy teaching.
Are you teaching now?
No, but I am soon to start it. A friend of mine has a theater in Old Saybrook, and we plan on getting a group of people together and teaching students.
Let's hold that thought. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You are tuned into Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Smart TVs and streaming services have taken over the television industry. VSC TV is proud to announce our presence on Apple TV and Roku to make watching your favorite shows even easier. You can access this service by downloading the Cablecast ScreenWeave app. Then choose Valley Shore Community TV from the list of channels. Select VSC TV Live to watch our channel in full HD. Or pick a show from our on-demand video library. VSC TV is your local Connecticut Mid-Shore Valley digital connection.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, thanks so much for being here. Well, I continue my conversation with Joel Stedman. And Joel, tell me about what you're doing these days and what does the rest of 2022-23 look like? Do you have some productions that you're working on?
I don't have any productions that I'm working on as far as actual videotaping and being on location and casting and stuff like that, but I am always in production mode as far as developing new ideas. For a long time, a couple of friends of mine that were both writers, head writers for soap operas, the 3 of us came up with probably 4 different scripts, 4 different ideas for series, and pitched them. And at that particular point, it must have been 15 years ago when we pitched those, there basically was, you know, the 3 networks and about 3 or 4 cable channels. Now, as we know, there are like hundreds of outlets for new programming. So we're sort of back in the mode of pitching and seeing if we can get something going. And then also I started working on game shows. Because what happens with a dramatic or a comedy series or script, when you pitch it, they read it and they go, gosh, I just love this, but let's rewrite the ending and have da-da-da-da-da-da, and so we rewrite the ending. I just love this, and I really want you to rewrite the opening. And so by the time you finish, the poor script has just been mismatched together, so it's really much easier to pitch a game show and say, we're going to have 3 people out there, and they're going to have 1 host, and they're going to answer questions, and it's done, and they go yay or nay. And I was so close to several yays that I still work on game shows, because it's a real fast kind of put an idea together, pitch it, see if anybody is going to use it.
Are there any game shows that you can tell us about that have gone through?
No, none, unfortunately. Close, but no cigar.
Let's talk about the pitch. How does a viewer who's interested in pitching something to someone, or your experience, how does somebody go about doing something like that?
Well, you've got to come up with a 1-page concept, whether it be a game show or a dramatic series or whatever, so it's all right there on 1 page. And you can either submit it directly to a production house, or you can sit on their doorstep and pound on their door and say, I've got a great idea that you need to hear. Or if you're lucky, you can get an agent and they make an introduction for you. I was fortunate that I had an agent, and I was in Los Angeles several times pitching. So it was great fun.
What does the future look like for you? What would you ideally like to be doing?
I would like to be producing a dramatic series. My friends from the head writers, we are re-pitching things. So all we need to do is have somebody say, here's a couple $1 million, go ahead and develop the first 4 or 5 shows. Have you got the 4 or 5? I don't, so I have to continue to pitch and find out who might be interested. But there's so many outlets these days. I mean, just think about all the cable programs that are on TV. You know, there are thousands of different programming every day. So it should be a lot easier these days. You know, and if I could give anybody any advice about how to get a program that they're thinking about doing, either with your iPhone, shoot it, edit it, present it finished. Best way to do it. Or you could do a 1-pager and see if somebody will take the time to read it.
Morningside Productions, what is that all about? You're in Guilford, Connecticut, but I mean, are you national, international? What does Morningside mean to you?
Morningside Productions is a full-service video production company. We'll work worldwide, and we have. I have been in, I've been in France and London and Spain and Portugal and all over. It's been really an exciting career that way. And I think that the main thing that Morningside gave me was the possibility of talking to people that are above me. They can take a look at my reel, see my work, and then I can talk to them professionally and saying, I can do this for you. You know, if you need this kind of help, I can do that for you. If you need that kind of help, I can either do it myself or I can find people for you. I've got a cadre of professional people, whether they're cameramen, soundmen, technicians, whatever, grips. I've got all of those people lined up really. You know, they all freelance with me. I am just Joel Stedman at Morningside Productions. I'm a single person. I had for a long time an office assistant who did all the billing and payments and stuff like that. Before that, I would be up at 4 o'clock in the morning working out FICA and Social Security and writing checks, and because I had probably 300 at least actors every year, and I worked with Meryl Streep and Rita Moreno. Oh boy, she tongue lashed me when I said her name the wrong way. I think I said Rita Moreno, and she said it's Marino. And I went, oh gosh, I'm really sorry. But she was gracious enough to do a breast self-examination thing for Sloan Kettering. And that was Meryl Streep too. So it's great. I get a chance to work with all sorts of different people.
Agents and other producers and directors, do you have a relationship with them that has come through time? How does somebody build up a communication with them?
Well, the best way to do it is to show them your work. And if you're an actor, you need to invite them to the show that you're doing and make sure they get there, bug the heck out of them and make sure that they get there. If you're a director, you got to do the same thing. Invite agents to see your work. It's all about seeing your work. If you don't have work, there's not much anybody can say. I mean, I can't look at you and say, oh my God, you're going to be a wonderful actress. There's no way. I need to see your work.
And how does somebody get some work? Are they all knocking? Is it all audition process?
Yeah, definitely. Somebody will say, I really want you to see this person. And so I say, great, I'll see the person, but I'll bring them in for an audition. I won't see them separately. I'll bring them in when I'm auditioning people. And after working every year for at least 10 years and casting 300 SAG actors, I've got a stable of 3,000 people that I can call on. They're all now a little bit older, but some of the roles are a little bit older too. So the only way you can get people to hire you is for them to see your work.
The pandemic, how did it affect your work, the industry? What are your thoughts about it as things have shifted?
Well, everything came to a screaming halt. Like Broadway, everything just stopped. Everybody was terrified of it. We didn't know what was going to be happening. And when you go into a studio, it's a closed environment, and you've got a lot of people around, and so that pretty much shut down too. And we were all just twiddling our thumbs, not knowing what to do. And slowly but surely, we're starting to come out of that as, here we are. We're starting to come out, and Broadway started back up again, but now with COVID B5, they're starting to get worried, and so sometimes they're closing a show early if it's not doing that well. Why risk it? But I think that once we're done with B5, I'm really hopeful that we can continue back to all working together, taking precautions for sure, but all working together again. Theater, film, television, it's just too valuable of a arts kind of education about who we are as human beings for us to let it go and not fight for it. It's a salvation for the world. I think going to the theater gives you such a personal insight about other people's lives when you see a movie or on the theater that you usually don't consider, and then yet you do when you see something that is dramatically important to you, and it changes your life. It really does. And in the theater, gosh, especially in Broadway, those seats are like right next to each other. And there's one right behind and one right in front. And it's tough, but people go. People want to see theater. They want to see the movies.
We have a lot of actors that watch this show. You're going to be doing some classes. How does the industry look like for actors? I mean, are they hiring? You're going to be doing some teaching. Is there interest in coming to class?
They can always reach me at morningside@aol.com. I'm one of the first persons with AOL.
Exactly.
And so when I said I wanted it to be Morningside, they said, too many letters. And I said, what are you talking about? And they said, it only can be 7 or 8 letters. And so it's MORNINGSIDE DE, no I. So just email me at morningside@aol. Yeah, we're going to start classes, and the beauty of what's happening with the expansion of cable is that as much as it helps me trying to get a program sold or a series idea sold, there's so much opportunity for actors. There's so many roles, and it's being cast all the time. You know, just get on the internet, and there's casting agencies all over the place, and get your resume and your picture there and show them some work. If you don't have anything, if you don't have any work that you're doing that's actually commercial, get your iPhone out, pick a monologue, pick some sort of monologue that fits you and do it and put it on tape and send it to them. If you're good, you're going to be hired. You're going to get work. It's as simple as that. There are so many people out there that are not good, and you can't compare yourself to those people. You've just got to go. And if you feel like you need help, you know, actors need teachers, and I'm a teacher, and I love to work with actors, and I would be able to not only help them learn the craft better, but I would also be able to put them in touch with agents and say, you know, you need to look at this guy because I think he's really good, or this woman is really phenomenal, you need to look at her. So find an acting teacher that might be able to do that for you.
Well, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure. What a great time.
Thank you. I appreciate it too, and best of luck to you.
Thank you. And you've been tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you're interested in being a guest or you'd like to volunteer, please let me know. Love to hear from you. I can be reached at artsandentertainment@mail.com. Send me an email and I'll get right back to you. Well, I hope you have a super day. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.